don't know why it's so dark in here. It's not in person. All right, I'm going to wait for some of you to get on. Happy May 1st. Happy Monday. Oh, I was on a plane earlier today and I slept really weird. Hello. Okay. I'm here. People are here. Okay. Sounds good. Hey. Angelica. Today's topic is just kind of fun and I want to hear everybody's opinion. Okay, so just getting everything out of the way for those of you that don't know, today's Monday Fun Day, which means we go live here for like an hour and a half and we just discuss something I'm interested in. And then we go to my, I'm lagging on my end. I love you, Angelica. You're the best. And then we go live on my OF account right after this. That is obviously a very different kind of live. That one is more visual. This one is more intellectual. So I know a lot of you that are here go there too. And today hopefully will be no different. I'm excited for both lives. But today we're discussing kinks, okay? As somebody on OnlyFans, Angelica, you're on OnlyFans. And then obviously everybody here has a sex drive, has maybe some kinks, a fetish they're into. And I was always super interested in like how people develop kinks and how people develop fetishes, especially since some of them are so common, but they don't make like sense in like the typical way, like foot fetish, even like super common, almost I would say mainstream. But like, you know, why people sexually attract. There's actually a lot of theories, but no like concrete answers. Like it's not like anyone has a definitive answer. Oh, it's because of early childhood experiences or hello, discuss intellectuals. A kink early thing, and actually we're gonna go through that first, the difference between a kink and a fetish, and then I can talk about some of my experiences. Being on OF, or I can talk, you guys can also ask me questions, like general questions about what I encounter. And hold on, my moderator had a little document that explained the difference. Yes. Okay. So what are kinks? The kinks are the use of non-conventional sexual practices, concepts, or fantasies. Kink is kind of the opposite of vanilla, is how it's stated, but it's kind of just anything a little unusual, I guess, that turns you on. But kinks in general are so common that having a kink itself is not unusual, but anything, I guess, that deviates out of the traditional vanilla world. Tan lines are one I've always wondered why I like. Well, we'll go through maybe some of the reasons that you may like it. So yeah, and then a fetish is different. Oh yeah, so one thing is kinks do not automatically have to be related to sex. Many kink activities actually don't involve sex at all. So the difference between kinks and fetishes, kinks are less intense and increase arousal, but are not necessary. For a fetish, it must be present for sexual arousal. So that is the main difference, is kinks. If someone has a fetish for something, then that fetish needs to be part of the sexual experience for them to get that gratification, whereas a kink is not necessarily necessary. Like you may have a kink for choking, but if you're not being choked during sex, doesn't mean that you are not going to like be able to follow through with it. Tan lines could be that you're seeing something that is normally covered, that's forbidden. Yeah, I want to hear what you guys think about some of the theories that people have. And there are some studies that kind of do dispel some myths surrounding certain kinks, like for instance the BDSM community. I was reading this whole thing about adult diaper, what is it called, AD, I wrote it down. It's like an acronym for people that have fetishes for wanting to be in diapers or emulate a baby or a toddler. And then I also want to talk at the end, I want to talk about what you guys think about kink shaming, and if kink shaming should ever happen, what you guys think about fetishes that are like, for instance, like even pedophilia, what you think about it. Obviously the action versus having the fetish. And if there is a difference, if having the fetish itself automatically makes you immoral, are kinks and fetishes something we can even help? Should we destigmatize? Like, you know what I'm saying? You know how I like to go on tangents about all this. Drizzle drippin'. I know I already read that. Jasmine, are you not a Redditor anymore? Yes, I am a Redditor. Master of the Jedi Order always has like the weirdest questions. But you know, you come every week. We appreciate that. So some sexual practices that are commonly put under the kink umbrella: bondage, sadism, masochism, foot fetishes, spanking, role playing, etc. I've encountered all of these on OnlyFans. People into all of this stuff. Angelica, you could speak to that too, because I know you are a creator, and as creators, obviously we get inundated with everybody's messages and what they're into, which we don't mind. Some less well-known ones might include food play, mummification, and blood pay. Blood play, not blood pay. Findom, it's pretty normal, just wanting to be dominated in general. Small penis humiliation, SPH, is very common. I encounter that a lot. JOIs, pretty popular on my page. There's like a bunch that are pretty popular. So some misconceptions. So a 2008 study of Australians, over 20,000, found that people who engaged in BDSM did not have any sexual difficulties, and men who participate were more likely to be unhappy or anxious. So I think a lot of people have it in their minds, like, if you're really into BDSM, I only asked that Reddit question because I couldn't look at your profile. Maybe I blocked you because you're annoying. But, and also this is not the place for like one-on-one questions like this. I haven't had anyone get kinky with me, and it makes me really sad. I'm praying I don't give them a vanilla vibe. Really? I honestly don't think I get as many kinks as other like people. Like, I feel like there are creators that advertise as kink friendly or are more kink friendly or give off a look that maybe is very attractive to somebody who has a particular fetish or kink. I don't think I fit into any of those categories, because I get asked all the time, are you kink friendly? And I would say I am, but that doesn't mean any kink or fetish I'm going to be comfortable with, and I will provide that content. I also don't do kink or fetish content on my page, like as a general. Like, it's not like you're going to scroll through my page and see a bunch of feet, because they are specific kinks. And I feel like with kinks, especially kinks like feet, or foot fetish, which is, I guess, more of a fetish, it's either you like it or you don't. So I don't want people to subscribe to my page and scroll down and see a bunch of feet if that's not what they're into. And it's not what I'm personally into. Like, I don't have any moral opposition to people who like feet, but I don't personally like it. Tan lines show the shape of underwear / bikini. So it's like both seeing someone in underwear and naked. Tan lines are hot. But yeah, so BDSM 2006 study took 32 self-proclaimed BDSM practitioners and put them through 7 psychometric tests: anxiety, depression, sadism, masochism, PTSD, etc., and showed that they are just like everyone else, and that they had the same rates of psychopathy as the general population. I'm not gonna lie, like, I can obviously logic and reason my way out of it, but when I used to hear that men like were really into like just being super aggressive and dominant in bed, I would always be like, oh, like I would maybe like assume that says something about their personality, which actually I'm going to talk about how it kind of does, not in a negative way. And I kind of had that, like, not like judgy, but like, I guess I would make assumptions about people based off of their kinks and fetishes. And from the little bit of research I've done, a lot of times it's not warranted. But sometimes there are certain personality traits that may make you more susceptible to something. So also on BDSM, studies have actually shown a correlation between people who regularly practice BDSM and higher levels of relationship and sexual satisfaction. So, and it's contrary to popular belief. It's not because people who like BDSM or like to be dominated in I don't know what it's called in BDSM, like the person who's the aggressor, more like the person dominating the other person. I don't remember. I knew it before, but it's not because these people were abused or something's wrong with them or they're trying to, you know, cope with some traumatic childhood or not even childhood sexual trauma. It seems that people just have a desire for sexual novelty. And where's the one about personality traits? Yes, there was a 2014 survey published in the Canadian Journal of Human Sexuality, which looked at the personality traits of 270 people who practice BDSM. Those who preferred the dominance role to the submissive role identified themselves as having different traits. Dominance scored significantly higher than submissives on desire for control, extroversion, self-esteem, and life satisfaction. Submissive scored significantly higher than dominance on emotionality. Both groups scored similarly on empathy, honest humility, conscientiousness, openness to experience, altruism, or agreeableness. What do you guys think of that? It is also porn influence on society right now. Do you guys think that? Do you think porn is perverting the mind? Because we've talked about porn before. Or is porn just providing access to fetishes that people already had? I don't care how much porn is out there that's showing me grandmas. Like, I don't have an issue with grandma porn, but I'm not going to see it and be like, you know what? The 50th time I saw an ad for grandma porn, I'm going to click on it and I'm going to like it. You know what I mean? It has to be somewhat something that people are into, and then people make porn that obviously does well because enough people are into it. I think porn follows trends to what the market is demanding. Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I would say that is probably true. So a 2014 paper published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior looked at ABDL. ABDL is the people who like to dress up as babies, the diapers. I don't know what it actually stands for. Adult, I'm assuming, is the first word. But answers from some respondents, mostly men, showed that ABDL behaviors were associated with attachment styles and parental relationships. So if you guys watch my stream, I don't know how long ago now, on attachment styles and desire, attraction, relationships, and development, attachment styles are a big deal, and they kind of follow you throughout your life, even from like childhood, and then it can bleed out into your romantic relationships a lot of the time, which is like where the big emphasis is now. It doesn't mean it can't change, but I thought this was interesting. For instance, for male respondents, being more anxiously attached was linked to 9 ABDL behaviors, including a desire to be dominated or to have a daddy, the role of the person nurturing the adult baby. Furthermore, some male respondents who reported having a negative relationship with their mother or father showed a connection to engaging in sexual activity with a mother or father figure. On the other hand, those respondents who had a positive relationship with their mother or father viewed diapers as sexually stimulating and placed more emphasis on sexual enjoyment from their ABDL activities. Different people have different reasons for being involved in the fetish. This is a quote from the researcher. Different people have different reasons for being involved in the fetish or lifestyle. There are those who are into it for sexual gratification, and that can be widely varied even by itself. For some people, it can be degrading and where they want to be embarrassed or even very BDSMS in nature. And for others, it isn't sexual at all. So this was about the adult diaper thing. So I think this kind of is a theme that branches out into all kinks and fetishes. From what I'm seeing is that there isn't like, oh, if you have this fetish, it means you got it because of this. I know for a foot fetish, I've heard this before, but the part of your brain, like your brain map and the part of your brain that is responsible for like thinking about your genitals and your feet are very close. So if there's some overlap or a little bit of crossover, voila, now you're sexually aroused by feet. Okay, let me see what people, I mean, softcore porn, I mean, sex scenes count, no? Let me see what you were saying before. That's a lot of kinks to learn. There is a lot of kinks to learn. Hey, what did I miss? Oh, we're talking about where people get their fetishes and kinks from. Maybe not perverting, but it's definitely misinforming on how actual sex is in real life. Yeah, it's always done that. That hasn't gotten worse. In fact, I think now that at least some states in some part of the country are more pro-sex ed, and they're teaching people about different kinds of sex and different kinds of sexualities and whatever. I think that you get better sex ed. You won't accept the unrealistic nature of porn, but I mean, just like Playboy from those days, it's not realistic, right? It's showing you a hyped up fantasy, and that's what the industry does. I think with things like OnlyFans, we talked about this, why you should pay for porn episode weeks ago, where it actually shows that OnlyFans, on the other hand, is helping people become more educated on sex, because a lot of people are able to talk to somebody in an authentic setting, ask real creators, oh, do you really like a fucking 15-inch dick in your, no, that's a misconception from porn. So I thought that was pretty cool. Early experiences, that is a theory as to why some people may get certain kinks or fetishes from. Somebody said, if an object was pleasant or salient to early sexual experience, you may associate that object with sex, and the use of it continues on with sexual behavior. You can recognize and associate certain feelings with smells 20 years later. Maybe they're comforting feelings like that from a perfume your mother wore, or perhaps they're destabilizing, like the smell of a cologne an ex used to wear. Either way, smells continue to bring about memories and feelings throughout one's life. A connection between the mind and body also has an impact. Every sexual experience is generally physical and psychological. As we learn to associate an object or experience with arousal, the two become tied together. So ultimately, we develop fetishes through experience. Nope. What? They get their exploitive side from Reddit and OG Tumblr. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to be right. Am I missing something? What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Nope to no to a 15 is yes. Nope to a 15-inch penis. Yep. It's gonna be a no for me, guys. But porn teaches men that, like, you don't know how many dick rapes I do, or I get pictures of penises that they think their penis is too small and their penis is fucking big. Like, porn has like convinced people that, like, especially if you don't have a lot of experience yourself, or you're somebody that's gonna maybe be more susceptible to believing that's what it's like in real life, or that's what women want. Like, oh, we just want to be gangbanged by 15-inch cocks. It's so fun. Like, I mean, I'm not saying no women maybe are into that, but like, porn makes it seem like, that's what we're all wanting. And I really like an average sized dick. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I don't want a huge dick. And I think a lot of women feel that way. And things like OnlyFans has helped with that. If you guys were on my last OnlyFans live stream, I was demonstrating on myself how a good way to finger somebody and how to stimulate different parts of that region. And that is something that, you get that authentic, like, real person telling you on OnlyFans, which is different, I think, than porn. Also, the unrealistic idea that sex has to last for unrealistic hours on end. Yeah, there's like this thing that, like, men think that if you, like, come too early, that we're sitting there like, oh, like, no, I don't feel that way. I don't know if Angelica feels that way. Average is great, yes. There's so much more to sex than penetration, which is why kinks are fun. Exactly. I completely agree. You look beautiful in your profile picture, by the way, the way the light's hitting you. Yeah, and I said this in my last OF live stream too, that most women were not like just waiting, like you just come and you start just banging, no, like jamming your penis, like, no, that's not how, but that's a lot of times how porn works. It's like the mailman shows up and then he just starts like that. I think that is only showing one, like, and it's very male dominated kind of fantasy. Not saying that women never have fantasies like that, but whereas a lot of times what men really want to know is what women want. Men want women to enjoy the experience, but porn doesn't necessarily give you an accurate window into that. But when you get a chance to go on, like, my lives, or I don't know if Angelica does lives, or a bunch of creators do, they're going to answer your questions honestly for the most part. Like, I don't think we're going to sit there and be like, oh, the bigger the better, I love a big cock, like, and that's that. Also, I'm like 5 feet, So there's only so much room before your dick starts hitting my cervix, and then it's like, what's the point? Okay, sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent. So yeah, so there's something that they also call classical conditioning, which is where some kinks may come from, which is basically like Pavlov's, is it Pavlov? Yeah, the dog we all learned in psychology. You ring the bell before, and then the bell, after the bell, you feed him, and the dog starts like salivating, but then the dog starts associating the bell with food and doesn't even need to have the food, will start salivating for the bell. And not to that extent, like I wouldn't say this is like to that extent, but one way people form kinks is by creating a sexual connection where there wasn't one before. Sometimes kinks come from our brains pairing an otherwise non-sexual neutral object, body part, or situation with a sexually relevant context. These pairings can happen at any point in our life. For example, if you happen to have a really great masturbation session on a blue couch, then suddenly blue couches might make you a little hot and bothered. What do you guys think? Yeah, Pavlov. I get it confused with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I don't know, Maslow and Pavlov. I believe that there are already too many pornographic niches that are so immediately within the reach of the general public that they can go unnoticed as a niche and can be perceived as common or average sex. Like what? And maybe they are common fetishes, but they're not common sexual experiences, right? Unless people role play, like the stepmother is a common one, etc. There was actually a study done on, I think it was rats. How do you say this? Semiotosensory conditioning? I probably butchered that. But they basically had half the males have sex with jackets on and half not. And they found that the rats who never, like in the beginning, they weren't conditioned to have sex with the jacket, like they never had jackets before they were tested or after, they were able to perform just as good sexually. People who wore jackets the whole time, there was no difference. People who started without a jacket and then had a jacket were still able to perform. But the mice who wore a jacket and then the jacket was taken away were less likely to seek out sex or ejaculate. So they had been conditioned to associate the jacket with sex. And then when they didn't have the jacket, it was harder for them. I lost my Virginia Park, so I like outdoor sex. Well, I assume that's why. Or maybe I did it first because I already liked it. I didn't. Yeah, the thing is, we don't know. We don't know. Like, I'm not here to be like, this is the correct theory. But, you know, clinicals, psychologists, sexologists, people that are doing this research, like these are some theories that they have, but we don't know. It's not like, you know, we can put like, can wear a helmet and it's like, this is where you got it. This helps explain why my kinks are so specific. Yeah, it could. So there's also a theory that some of the kinks that people have arise from behaviors that serve the population in the past, but are now harder to, like, they don't serve us anymore. So this is called the vestigial explanation. So for instance, this is gross. I mean, if you have this fetish, it's not gross, but like, if you don't have this fetish, this is kind of like, but like, you know, we even see now, like animals will like lick the feces and the pee off of their offspring. And that maybe used to be something people did as a hygienic practice. And so people now that have a poop or pee fetish, this is a theory, no, not me saying that this is the case, could be from the fact that it used to be actually something good for you and beneficial to society, even though now it no longer is. But the theory is essentially that genetic mutation that reactivates this part of the genome to express a biological drive to ingest urine. So that's one of them. Hardcore is such a broad term, though. What in particular? Hardcore sex is the perfect. Yeah, hardcore is what is hardcore sex? Okay. I don't know what Master of the Jedi Order is talking about, but Master of the Jedi Order, this is your final warning. My Twitch is not a place for you to just bring up random comments all the time. And you keep asking about my Reddit. I literally only block people on Reddit because I have a block limit, who are like egregious. So, and this is not the time for you to come here and ask. I don't know what your username is on Reddit, but you can't be in these chats just asking random shit about yourself. It's just not the time. I feel like I keep getting auto-modded. I'm not saying anything wild. For King of the Hunt in here or in Reddit? I don't know what's going on with here. Oh, that might be just Twitch. I don't think it's my moderator. I don't know. Twitch is. Let's see what my moderator says. Oh, he is. I'll allow his messages. Oh, okay. So I guess my moderator is going to manually allow your messages, and my moderator from now on is going to manually allow messages from pretty much everybody, unless you're saying something crazy. I love foreplay for extended periods of time to build up that tension, like delayed gratification. I like that too. I think a lot of people probably like that. But you don't see that in like porn a lot. But in real life, I feel like a lot of us are into that. Online, they kind of call it like people when they want to build up that sexual arousal for as long as they can, but keep it. Edging is what it's called. I do that sometimes. I feel like I do that. There is something interesting. There's a theory of older brothers. So they have found that if you have a lot of older brothers, you are more likely to have atypical attractions, which are basically kinks. And part of the reason for that could just be the relationship that successive male offspring have with the mother's hormones. Interesting, but that is something that they found. They found that link. Have you ever read? No, I haven't actually read much Freud past college. I got my bachelor's in psych, but like I didn't ever read Freud unless I had to for a class. I do want to though. Edge play is very fun to explore in a relationship. Edge play is fun to explore by yourself. I love it. I do that on my live sometimes. This one is interesting because this one is one that I honestly feel like it makes sense to me. But this theory is called compensation. It's when people can access traditional outlets and miss out on, I guess, socially acceptable sex and what it means. And then they kind of compensate for that by going towards something a little bit more deviant or different because they haven't had a healthy outlet. And I noticed this in my fan base on OnlyFans, people who are more ashamed of sex, people who are more repressed, not like it's just different. They may not even have different kinks necessarily, but like somebody who's open and like, and I noticed this with culture. I noticed this with regions. Like a guy in Europe's like, oh, I fucking love feet. And then, show him feet. He's like, yeah, I fucking love feet. Feet are cool. And then he'll get his foot kick in and then he's like, okay, bye, have a nice day. Whereas somebody who is like ashamed of it or has a negative connotation, association with porn, or he thinks he's weird, when they're like in the zone though, they are like, I want every curvature of your, like they're like super crazy into it. I have a lot of friends in the LGBTQ community, and this is just me going based off of what my best friend said, who is a gay guy, and he says that there's a lot of straight men who like, will use, not straight, like they're not fully straight, I guess, but they're in the closet still, like Grindr, etc. And he says when you meet up with them, like they really have like really intense fetishes or kinks, and they are very aggressive because kind of like it's pent up and they're just letting it out. Whereas people that are more like okay with who they are, their sexuality and their sexual desires are not like that. So again, it's not proven. This is just what a theory is, and I think based on my anecdotal experience, it seems plausible. So some fetishes, I genuinely wonder where they spawn from. Yeah, that is true. But we've learned they could be so many things. Like somebody could, like, sometimes I'm literally like, because I get custom requests all the time, like, can you smash plates? And I'm like, what the fuck? But now I'm like, maybe that was classical conditioning. Maybe that was you pairing a non-sexual object with sex, and now it's ingrained in your brain. So it could be any of these reasons. It's not that there's one. And that's what we've been reading about. What else was there? Is there anything else in here? There's more, but what are the most common kinks? So a 2005 study says that 36% of American adults use blindfolds, masks, and bondage tools. There was a study that said 55% of women and 50% of men like to be bitten. That was kind of interesting. 65% of college-age people dream about being tied up. I could see that. And then, oh, sorry, I didn't see the, do you do JOI? I do JOIs on my page. Actually pretty popular. And I think they're like mainstream. Like it's like a mass thing I do. A lot of people are into it. I just like the heart of a wonderful woman. What's the weird question you've had on OnlyFans? I have heard them all. There are ones that are just bizarre, and then there are ones that are just very intense. You know what I mean? I wouldn't necessarily say that anything is like weird. I either have a ton of weird requests or, you know, it just depends on the day. If anyone in the chat, no judgment, can explain the appeal to furries, I'm curious to know what sparked that kink or how it was explored. I was watching a video where the lady was saying that was a classic, not even like a classical conditioning thing, but classical conditioning maybe mixed with early childhood experience. You could have like a fuzzy stuffed animal or something around you, and you would, like, maybe it's on your bed, and you would masturbate all the time or when you were first learning about it. So there's this idea that when we first have our first sexual experience, we are more likely to be whatever was around us at the time, to associate with that and to hold on to it for a really long time. Kind of like those childhood, Christmas morning, or those feelings or sensations that we had early that were like the most pure and the most intense. So that is a theory that some people would hump stuffed animals when they're really young, or when they're starting to play with their bodies, they may rub this, like, something soft on the area. I know for girls, this is like young girls, this is common. I've heard for young boys, like sometimes they will just put there's be two beds really close to each other, two things, and they'll like rub their penises in between. So and again, I don't know what the appeal is to, I don't know what the furry community, I'm not part of it, but yeah, if anybody is. But that's the thing, I don't think they know. It's not like they're like, oh, I'm a furry because I have a genetic mutation. Like, they don't know that, Repression plays a very important role. That's why in Japan they are so perverted. There is censorship in their porn, and sex there is a taboo subject. I think that I've noticed a lot of like taboo stuff be very popular in repressed communities. So I'm Middle Eastern. I have a lot of fans in the Middle East where sex is very repressed, and these guys come fucking swinging on OnlyFans because it's like they don't have a healthy outlet, like I said earlier, or the super conservative right wing. Watch out for them, guys. Let's all say. So my moderator says I'm in Japan right now and sex is not taboo. Yeah, I was like, I wouldn't put Japan in that category. I would put any religious like community, obviously, and certain parts of the world like that are usually heavily influenced by religion, like the Middle East. So my moderator who is in Japan says there's a porn theater with topless women on coasters super close to where I'm staying. That seems more free than America, Jung is a good reading for Young is a good reading for repression and the unconscious. Yes, I agree. True repression will lead to more desires, and that will deviate from what would be considered the average desires. Yeah, we're all just speculating, but we're like, sounds right. Yeah, repression is about like holding a beach ball underwater. The more you try to force it down, the harder it will rebound. So then my question goes, are there kinks or are there fetishes? Are all of them okay to have? Because doesn't seem like they're things that we choose. So think of what you're into. You didn't choose it. You didn't choose for that thing to give you the bodily sensation or to stimulate you in the way that it has. So even if we look at, so there are ones that a lot of people have that are in effect harmless, like feet. There are ones that many people have that are not harmless, and if acted upon is immoral, it's wrong, and can be damaging to other people and society. But the process by which the person acquired that kink or fetish is no different than the process by which we acquired ours. So it was a couple years ago. Oh, no, it was more than that now. Girl, I'm getting old. Where there's a site. I wonder if it's still up. I'm gonna see. There was a site called Virtuous Pedophiles, and I don't know how I heard of it or how I came across it, honestly. But I remember I was just like, "What is this?" And I found out that it is an internet. Oh, if there's a Wikipedia page for it, it's an internet-based mutual support group for pedophiles who acknowledge that having a sexual interest in children and do not act on their attraction. Members support each other by trying to lead normal lives without committing child sexual abuse. Members share their beliefs that sexual activity between adults and children is wrong and always will be. They also work against the stigma attached to pedophiles. The two founders of the group use the pseudonyms. Ethan Edwards and Nick Devon. They do not reveal their true identity because they fear ostracism and hatred. There are over 2,000 users registered, including former offenders, parents of children, parents of pedophiles, and a few sex researchers. So at first this sounds like, so like, what do you mean we're just pedophiles? But then like I was like, this is kind of cool. Like these people who have this desire, if it's just fully stigmatized and it's like you're committing thought crime, how is that beneficial to anybody? When I was in Osaka, I went to a few kinky places and clubs. You guys have probably had people think because you're on OnlyFans, like they're like, what is the kinkiest thing that you've done? Like I'm like, guys, like probably all of you have stories more interesting than mine. Just want to say, hope you're doing good and hope you have a great day. Thank you. I think certain things people just have to accept. They will have to sacrifice for a bit for ethics, such as minor attraction. Probably developed similar to other fetishes, but it's not justifiable in any case. I agree. So how far, so the person who has the fetish can't control having the fetish. So having the fetish itself shouldn't be demonized. Now, a lot of these people are not going to openly like go into a grocery store and say, I'm attracted to children, because we're all going to be like, and I'm not lying. Like if I had a child and I knew that person over there was attracted to children, I would not want my children around them. But I think having support groups and trying to at least differentiate between the desire and the action and the beliefs surrounding the desire. Like you can have the desire and be like, but I think this is wrong, and I don't think in any real circumstance should children and adults ever be engaged like this. And then the question becomes, okay, what about people who are like, yeah, that's fine. Is AI generated child porn okay? Is people watch rape fantasy stuff all the time? In fact, a lot of women, actually, from what I've heard, are into that too. Should we not be watching anything that is depicted in real life? BDSM, I think, is a little different, because I think even in their content, they seem to, like, it looks like people who went there to have sex versus like anything involving children or like rape. There's like no safe word, etc. Should these things even be depicted with consenting adults or eventually AI or cartoon? I don't know. Minor attracted people need all the help they can get so they don't offend. So that's one side of it, is it's efficient to destigmatize it, and it'll lead to less incidences of actual child harm. That's definitely an argument. I think a consequentialist look at this in particular might be our top priority, but then also just like a moral standpoint. It's immoral to be sexual in any way with people who cannot consent. But is it immoral to have the desire if you did not control having the desire? That's looking at it from a different perspective. which is not as important as what actually benefits the kids. But I haven't done like research on this recently, but I remember when I saw this, I think I looked up that and these people are from their own testament, like they say that this helps them. If anyone has a thing for kids, I will protect my kid at all costs, as you should. We should all protect our kids at all costs. But is that human being the scum of the earth if they're like, I have this desire, I don't like it, I will never act on it, I will do whatever I can to not act on it, but I have it. And I'm not going to lie, all of us, if we have kids, we're going to be like, and I don't think that's wrong of us. Okay, somebody wants to offer promotion. What do you guys think? Sorry, I couldn't hold myself back. If someone said they're attracted to minors, they'd have to fight me then and there. That's the instinct, but is that right? If someone is attracted to minors, is the correct answer for them to just hide away and hate themselves? If they're good people, and if they're bad people, then they act on their desires, You cannot blame yourself for a fetish because according to Freud, most of them come from the unconscious, but you must take responsibility for them because yes. So I think taking responsibility for your fetishes is exactly the point. And I think that these people aren't able to take responsibility for the fetish a lot of the time because they're not allowed to have it. Like they're not allowed to have something that they obviously just have. Like it's not like if we tell them, which we have this whole time, you can't have this fetish, that the fetish has gone away. So I'm just throwing this question out there. What if we said you can't control your fetishes, but you can only act in a way that involves consenting adults and doesn't harm others? That would mean some fetishes are not fair game. And I think people would agree with that. But to say that anyone who has those desires, which are at least to some degree, I wouldn't say it's common in the sense of like the majority have it or even a significant percentage of people have it. But if something is around to the point where a lot, like, you know what I mean? Like millions of people have had it, it's, I guess, normal to a point. Oh my God. Thank God I'm not famous, guys. Someone would take this and be like, she says pedophilia is normal. Slippery slope, the actualization or simulation of morally questionable acts brings them closer to reality and closer to the idea of committing the act. Tempered track, that's a cool comment. So they make this comment in the context of aggressive porn towards women, or aggressive porn that depicts violence against women. And this has been a point made by anti-porn activists for a very long time, where it's like, well, if you show this, you're going to make men want to go and be violent towards women, and it's going to increase violence in women and towards women. And studies have not laid that out. In fact, if anything, it's either been no change or it's been that they had less violence towards women. So there's the idea that it has a cathartic effect more so than making people want to now go act on it. But I agree with you because that makes sense logically to me. Like, yeah, if you have access to something, you're going to want it more and more. I don't know. I really don't know. But at least in that context, it's not true. It's not true that the more pornography is online, the more violence is occurring. All right. Comment from the moderator. I think anything between consenting adults should be free game. The AI side is difficult because how realistic can things get before they're indistinguishable for real life? How conscious does AI become through machine learning? And at what point do we have to start respecting the consent of AI? I don't think anyone knows yet. I don't think anyone knows yet. We're so early in the AI trajectory. So we have no idea how things are going to pan out. But I thought the idea of AI-based child porn as a release for people that are into it, I don't like the idea. But do I have a fully fledged moral, ethical, practical argument as to why? And if someone presented me with data or kind of an argument that was like, no, this could be good because of XYZ, I'd be open to it. I don't know. I don't know. Guys, trust me, I have the same feelings as you. I just try not to. I think a good topic for next week is we should talk about free will in general. You guys can hear my controversial opinion on free will, but or at least one that I'm working through. Don't know if I fully am on board with it. We can get into that later. But this idea that people should be judged based automatically, like thought crimes, when you can't control your thoughts. And this was the same argument made towards, now the difference is, in this case, we all agree, like, you shouldn't even think homosexual thoughts. Well, homosexuals are still going to exist, and they did. And thank God in that context, it's perfectly fine, 2 consenting adults. With child pedophilia, there is not 2 consenting adults, obviously. And so that's not fine. But you can't stop the desire. So how do we deal with that? Do we deal with that by just shutting it down, underground, demonizing you? If you have this, something's wrong with you. And this is what people think about their kinks and fetishes, even when they're not something like morally reprehensible. Like, people literally think, like, especially, like, this is one thing that porn actually helps with, is people are like, oh, I'm not a fucking weirdo. They're not ashamed of themselves once they realize that other people are into it too. So kink exploration, and even just representation in porn, like from people of different sexualities, different bodies, etc., can help people feel more comfortable with their own sexuality and what they're into. You cannot blame yourself. Okay, no mind. I already read that one. Everyone and Jasmine, bear with me here. If any person is attracted to my kids, I will. Okay. Thank you, Master of the Jedi. Let's put that comment up, just so we deal with this every week. Okay. It's not actually a crime to be attracted to kids, so what would the jail do? No. No one's saying that. Like, the argument isn't that you're getting criminalized, like you're going to go to prison for thinking it. But the problem is, we put them in a social prison for it. So what kind of outlet do these people have, right? And are they all automatically bad people for thinking something that they don't want to think? I don't know. I love King of the Hunt. It's interesting, but vigilantism isn't exactly an answer either. Thank you, King of the Hunt, for seriously engaging with all comments. All right. Hazard Stint. I enjoy fetishes that involve rough sex, but I'm not rough in bed, nor do I enjoy it, nor am I good at it. There are tons of complicated factors, physiology and otherwise, physiologically and otherwise, what contributes to sexual desire. What excites or arouses isn't necessarily what certain folks are going to actually act out. I think this is true. There are things that, like, I'm into seeing that I don't want to do or I can't do. There are things I'm just impressed by, like y'all see those blowjobs. It's like, I'm like, I can't do that, but it's cool to watch. Interesting topic. Gotta head out though. What is a diff EQ exam? I don't know what that is. Is staring me down. Enjoy the rest of the night, everyone. Thank you for joining. And you had really, really great comments. Thank you so much. Hope you come back. LOL, the benefits of not being famous. We can talk about this. Yeah, I've one day, you guys, I'm going to get famous, and they're going to pull out this clip, and they're going to say that Jasmine Jafar said that pedophilia is normal and should be accepted. They're like, they're going to say I'm a groomer. I'm calling it. My moderator might have to not put this up on YouTube. Oh, differential equations. Okay. Is that math? I never had to do that. I feel like most people are not ready to accept the fact that we can't just kill or inflict pain on people we don't like, not because it isn't possible, but it actually makes the problem worse. Yeah, it does make the problem worse. And I think we all know, like, people are dumb, but when we really think about it, it's not, and this is why I want to do the free will talk next time. Is it any more their fault that they like what they like than you liking what you like? Are they they come out of the womb evil masterminds? Like, what? is there just some evil nature in them? And then also there is so is it pedophilia where it's prepubescent, and then there's something where the person is still underage but they've hit puberty, and I think that's a different word. Interesting. It's usually the first class after a normal calculus series. That's why I don't know. Sorry, my moderator's explaining to me what the exam was. I stopped at pre-calc, and then was like, oh, lawyer, don't need this. I had to take stats in college, and that was it. French equations. Oh, everybody knows this. You guys must be in different, much different. Oh, hebephilia is early teens. Hebephilia, is that how you say it? Degenerate is what they would say. Don't get me wrong, I'm not inclined to just be violent for the sake of it, but I've seen the harm that can be done when people find opportunities to prey on children. So the preying on children should never, ever, ever be okay. So what we're doing here is should we differentiate thought from behavior? That is my question. Does the thought automatically make you morally reprehensible if there's no behavior associated with it? All of us think, yeah, like that's the thing. I'm not going to wait for you to molest a kid before I let you around my kid if I know you're a pedophile, you know? But like, do we think places like Virtuous Pedophile is bad? Like, do we think like they're all terrible people? Like, you guys should maybe go on it and read. I haven't been on it for years, but at the time you could go and you could read entries, and some of it's like, oh, like you get that feeling of like, you're such a, like, why would you think this? How could you think like this? Something's wrong with you. Like, they're children. But then I would urge you to take a step back and be like, they didn't choose to feel this way. They're expressing what's their reality while simultaneously holding the correct moral position and not acting or behaving in a way that's harming anybody. Do the thoughts themselves harm? And I would say, even if we say yes, which we could, I think that, can we stop them? And are people responsible for them? Okay. And this is obviously a very like again, as pro as someone could be on this, which I wouldn't say I'm that, but I think I'm like, okay, you know, I'm not like murder everybody just who, like, if we could scan people's brains and we saw that in their brains, which we can't, would killing them all off even be like the right thing to do if we knew for a fact that you can't control your kinks and fetishes? Is it just that much of a, and I would say that you can make an argument, it's that much of a harm to society that they just don't get to live? Okay, you know, you could say that, but I mean, first of all, that's not practical. I'm just going off into thought experiment after thought experiment now about, one, how morally culpable are we for our thoughts? We are 100% morally culpable for our actions, but your thoughts. And then, is us being, how should we handle kinks? So most of us are at a place where we're like, okay, if you have a kink and it's not harming anybody, and even like feet, I don't even care if it's gross, pee, poop, whatever, food, necrophilia. This was really interesting for my lawyerness in me. The case, I think it was in Germany, if I'm not mistaken, where what is it called when you want to eat somebody? It's one type of fetish. And somebody had also the fetish of wanting to be eaten. So they signed a contract where the person was like, please kill me and eat me. And there was two consenting adults entering into a contract. Should people be able to do that? I feel like a professor, you guys. Who had the professor that was just like not actually teaching you anything, that just kept asking questions like, what about that? Where do you draw the line? Most of us, I think, at least here, would agree that, you know, if your fetish is a hermit, like, no one's like, you have a foot fetish, you fucking freak, you should die, right? I mean, some people may be just assholes, but race play fetishes are really common. There's a lot of white men that have a fetish of being cucked. And that hits us differently. Angelica is a woman of color. Let me know how you feel about those type of fetishes. Like, I don't do them because it makes me uncomfortable to bring race into any thing on my page. If you have a fetish about being cucked with just like a bigger dick or a better man, that's different. But when people want to bring race into it, I feel uncomfortable. Now that fetish hits me differently. If someone's like, I have a fetish, I want to be cucked by some BBC, I'm like, oh, I don't do that, but whatever. If someone was like, I have a fetish where I want to be like a white supremacist and I want you to make a video talking about how white cock is the best cock on earth and every other cock is inferior, that hits me differently. Like, I honestly am like, well, what's wrong with you? You must not be you must be a fucking lunatic. And is there truth in that? Maybe you don't know. I had a regular who was a person of color who grew up in a white, and I asked him, I was like, oh, I'm just curious, where did you get this from? Because we obviously would engage quite a bit. This was when I first started, so I had time for stuff like this. I do not have time for stuff like this now. And he was like, well, I was the only person of color in an all-white school and neighborhood, and I always felt inferior because of that, or I felt I was bullied because of it. So now his fetish was being superior because of his race. And he wanted people online, sex workers, to really hone that point in. They wanted his cock, and it was so much better than white cock. And so, I wish I could ask everyone where they get their fetishes. Offenders are always people who were offended as kids at one point. Not always, but a lot of the time. Speculation is not part of justice, though. People are ready to beat people up for their thoughts, is what I'm saying. Exactly. Thought crimes, but people make the argument. Thoughts become words, words become actions. So people are like, fine, they have the thoughts, but they should like, if you're a pedophile, you should never have a supportive group of other pedophiles. You can't put out the words. That on its own, it's like the Voldemort effect. We cannot say. There are no more or less guilt, but there are cases that imply more responsibility. In regards to what? Like we said, behavior is behavior. But then there's a gray area. Okay, even if you're caught with child porn, nope, bad, out, you can't watch it. But if it's AI generated or it's adults that are playing, it's just like, is there any healthy outlet for it? If there's not a healthy outlet for it, should there be healthy destigmatization and support groups for it? What is the best solution? I think, yes, always the people who don't confess to being offended are ashamed because it was a parent who offended them. You don't have any evidence for that, my dear. It is true that a lot of times abused people become abusers, but that is not always the case. It is not always the case that people that have that kink fetish, it's because of an early, if that was the case, then it would be a done deal that early onset childhood experience is what causes fetishes, and we don't have, that's just a theory. That's one of many reasons somebody could acquire a fetish. Which is why treacherously, I love when you're here. Can you just come every Monday, please? Which is why I'm saying society should be set up so it's not actually social death to say you have a fetish for children. That way all parents know not to bring kids around you, which tangibly helps. That's a good point. Like, if it was more accepted and somebody felt comfortable being like, hey guys, I have this, whatever, beware, I don't plan on acting on it. I don't think we're progressive enough of a society for that now. I think somebody would just go murder that person for even saying that, right? And it's very easy when you're not the one with the fetish, or you're not the one that was born with pretty much like, an affliction towards something, or being a psychopath or sociopath or whatever, not saying they're the same thing, but it's kind of like the free will stuff I want to talk about. Like, you're lucky that you don't have the brain of Jeffrey Dahmer, or you don't have the brain of a sociopath or a psychopath. You didn't choose not to have that. And I wonder if, that would be something that if it was more acceptable, then we know, then that person's even like, don't bring children around me. I don't want that around me. And then you would know in your neighborhood, okay, this person needs to stay away from children. I don't know. It doesn't seem practical. I feel like there would be a lot of issues with it. And I don't know if the ones that we would want to speak up would be the ones speaking up, All right, we got 2 chats from How can you, this must have been in response to my eating a dead person. Is it necrophilia? How can you rationalize a fetish that can only be achieved when you're dead? I don't know, people. It's called something. You want to be eaten, and I'm like, you can't enjoy it. Like, is it just that you have it's gonna be the orgasm that kills you, that you're being killed to be eaten? I don't know. And so people, that was the argument, is no, you can't consent to your own murder in this case because you're not well. You can't. And then now we're just going off into, should adults be able to make any decision for themselves as long as it doesn't harm others? If somebody's, or unless they have a mental disorder, who decides? This can go into the debate everyone's having on euthanasia. Like, people usually agree with it in cases of terminal illness or super old age, but people that are just like, I'm so fucking depressed. Why should I have to, why is the government forcing me to, should that be a thing? I don't have an answer to that. This is not me arguing for one position or another. My moderator also said, any open petals are going to get less lassoed by Jedi. It's not safe for them in the Wild West. I agree. I'm just saying, in a different world, maybe at a later time, Okay. Yay, I have a lot of comments. Sorry, guys, I'm always behind on the comments, so I'm going to try to go fast. Very true, but my response to that is, how did that feeling awaken in you that you were attracted to children and minors? I feel some level of child porn was slipped in there somewhere. Pedophiles existed before porn was in the world. Like, it wasn't that no child was exploited till the internet, I wouldn't kill, I will defend. You're looking at it wrong. It's a harm for kids if these people exist and have these intrusive thoughts. But is it a harm we can eradicate? Just like it's a harm, I think, to women that that men are bigger than us, and some of them can be very violent towards, I agree. That's a harm to women, I guess, if you look at it generally. But is it a harm in every instance? And is it something that it's just a reality that they're going to be there? So what do we do with them? Yeah, it's like saying viruses shouldn't exist. Yeah, but they do. Okay. Treacherously better than me, always. That's like saying viruses shouldn't exist. Yeah, but they do. We cannot exterminate. So what do we do now? Okay. I was going to mention Rice Play, then I was like, nah. I want to hear what you think about it. We try to catch up. I'm a few minutes behind. It doesn't matter how deplorable a person may be, dehumanizing them is a slippery slope. You don't have to understand their depravity to still identify with them as a human, which is important if we're going to research and learn more about human conditions. Yes, Hazard Stanton, I recommended this channel to Hazard Stanton. He checked it out. There's a channel called Soft White Underbelly. Everybody should go check out this channel. Soft White Underbelly, it's a guy who is based in Skid Row, but I think he branches out and does other cities and stuff too. And he interviews everybody, drug addicts, prostitutes, pimps, members of the KKK, child offenders, sex offenders, and he interviews them in such a raw way. And it's crazy that you can find the humanity in almost anybody. And this channel has really changed my, I would say, life and the way I see the world and I see human beings. I would check it out. I wouldn't advocate for murdering anyone, depending on the situation, but socially outcasting people is a precaution, but is it the most effective measure? That's the question. LOL, white women have fetishized me before. It made me uncomfortable, especially asking to speak my other language, which I only talk with my parents, basically. Yeah, and then there's the thing of being, people are fetishized based off their skin color, based off their attributes. We're kind of, everybody's fetishized in a way, but it's fine. It's not the same thing as fetishizing a child. The consequences of that are far more dire. I think race play can stem from dehumanizing others for sexual gratification, which is obviously a violation of that person. Yeah, this is the argument. And should it be what should be the response to it? Yes, agreed. Extermination is never a good route to go down. King of the Hunt. I have a question. Of course, it's back and forth as well intended and good natured. Yeah, King of the Hunt, we love you here. Should people who are attracted to minors be permitted to have children? Well, this is the thing. A lot of the time, people who are attracted to minors aren't attracted to their own children. So then what? Should they not have children because they could be around other children? Oh, looks like I'm almost caught up. The gap here is that pedophiles have literally zero incentive to make it known. I'm saying we should provide incentives as a society. What incentives? You know, I would entertain not letting them, but that would be extremely hard to enforce. I think Jazz said it. Would we be able to rely on them coming forward if it makes it easier to pursue their interests? I do have an SPH kink. Not a lot of people know about it because I'm afraid of being ridiculed for having a small penis. Let me tell you something. A lot of people have this kink. And this is something that I feel like is a good thing about the internet. You're not alone. No, you're not weird. You're not a creep. You're not a weird. Now, you know what makes you a creep? How you ask me. I have people with the craziest fetishes that don't hurt anyone. I mean, like smashing plates or sinking ship, whatever. And they come to me, so hey, nice to meet you. I'm so-and-so. I have this fetish. Let me know if you're fetish friendly. And if you are, maybe we could discuss a custom, but let me know if it's okay for me to tell you what I'm into. And then you can let me know if that works for you. Like, I don't care what unless your fetish is like, stepping on babies, which is usually not the case. People come at this a lot of the time in such a respectful manner on OnlyFans. I don't know if Angelica says this, at least in my experience, a lot of them. But again, a lot of times these aren't fetishes. Like these are just fetishes you would find weird. Can you poop and call me Agnes? Like it's just like it's like what? But it's not like you're a bad person. It's just like you're a weird person. I have fans who have fetishes where they want to be like it's a man, just a normal man in regular life, but they have a fetish of playing an old couple online. I have a prominent fan of mine who is into that. And this idea, I think one thing that we can all agree on is demonizing people, at least for fetishes like that, and making them feel like they're weirdos. We're all weirdos, guys. All of us. You think about your most obscure, like all of us have felt weird about what we're into at some point in our lives, I think. And I think this goes for men and women, when the whole time we were just fucking normal and nobody told us because nobody wanted to talk about it. Okay. Let's go back. I'm loving the dialogue between Treacherously and King of the Hunt. I have the best fans ever. Not calling you guys my fans, but like this Twitch stream I'm so proud of. Probably not particularly egregious cases are still an issue, but will be offending cases, which at that point is sort of just up to the parents defending, which is totally in their right. Would that extend to neighbors who found out that a parent is saying their child? I don't have a kink because it doesn't matter what I have. No, there's no unity between fetishes and respect. Yeah, fetish. I mean, I don't think a lot of us I think a lot of us frame our sexual desires and everything with respect. And a lot of us, I hope here at least would try to, but in the moment, like when you whatever. And then some of it is like if you like a lot of women like being submissive in bed and you like being choked and handcuffed. A lot of people wouldn't say, I guess some people would say, I guess you don't respect yourself for that, whatever. Or the person that enjoys doing that to somebody who is consenting and who enjoys it themselves. Where do we we just I feel like a lot of us just draw a line wherever we feel like drawing a line. And a lot of us draw it far before pedophilia, but things like even that. Or judging people who like to be dominated or SPH or being told they have a small penis, or financial domination, people being like, oh, you're a loser, you're this, you're that. Yeah, some of any abuses should be a duty of all adults to do the bare minimum for children whose guardians are abusive. Yeah. Treacherously and King of the Hunt, both of you. Love having y'all in here. Drizzle Drippin', Hazardson, of course. Puerto Rican Pog, I guess, is busy a lot of Monday nights now, but I really miss him in here. In my violent crimes course, we read case files about pedophiles, and there was actually a few cases where typically fathers were sexual assaulting their children. I'm not saying that it doesn't. I'm not even saying that it's doesn't happen, but there are plenty of times where it does, like, they don't go after their own children. I'm not saying, I don't know what percentage it is, but we know that that's definitely at least a substantial portion of them. It doesn't apply to their own children. If we're all weirdos, would that not make us normal? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What I learned in deviant behavior class is that we were all weird. We're all weird, guys. Anything that you think makes you so weird, especially even when it comes to body parts, right? Like, everyone's like, oh my God, something's wrong with my dick. I'm like, no, a lot of dicks look like that. Something's wrong with my vagina. No, a lot of vaginas look like that. Something's wrong with my boobs. No, a lot of boobs look like that. Like, that's what boobs look like. Sex in general, it's weird. It's amazing, but very weird. Yeah, we're also weird. Like, we've all been there. Like, I put my sex tapes out on OnlyFans now, and in the moment, I am like, oh my God, I am making the sexiest sounds. Like, this is so, and then I, like, not horny, and I look at that, and I am like, I sound like a fucking dying zoo animal, and this is, like, not hot. But in the moment, it was like, it's just weird. A strange statistic, but the fact if we all acknowledge and we're like, this is weird, but, like, we're all into it, so we don't need to have that post-nut clarity or shame where you're like, oh my God, I was such a weirdo. No, because we were all weirdos. Hi, Jazz. Does that mean I can call you Agnes? Sure. A strange statistic that I read related to that parent one was that a good portion of child SA was actually not from pedophiles, but drug addicted parents. Watch the Soft Underbelly channel, guys. It's just, like, it's very sad and very deep a lot. So trigger warning for sure for, like, 90% of these stories. A lot of them, vast majority, involve childhood abuse, especially childhood, especially when they're interviewing drug addicts and, the people living on Skid Row. But it's drugs, mental illness, poverty, these things really coincide, and abuse, and cycle of abuse are definitely prominent in the most vulnerable communities that we have. Would you venture to argue that the drug addiction may have removed their subconscious inhibitions? So let's talk about this too. So I know this from a lot of it, not like anecdotal like me, but being from the Middle East, dated men from like that have lived in the Middle East, and even the fact that like places like Saudi Arabia consume the most gay porn, and other things like that. There's also this creepiest. Yeah, sorry, I'm telling you all this disturbing stuff to watch. It's called Dancing Boys. It's like a documentary. It's on YouTube, and it's in Afghanistan, where older men take young boys to like watch them dance like women and have sex. Like, these are not things that happen because of Pornhub. Like, these were not fetishes and nobody had, and then Pornhub came, and then all of a sudden, like, village elders were fucking little boys. Unfortunately, we know the Catholic Church, like, you know what I mean? These were, and then that's another thing, like, even things like that. Okay, what's up with priests? Like, is it the repression, or was it that something about somebody that maybe already has that was more likely to? We have no fucking idea. Do you know, it'd be so interesting to know too. It has happened to someone that a fetish stops being a fetish. That is, it stops generating pleasure completely. Personally, has not happened to me. I don't know. I like being choked. No clue. I like being choked too, girl. I don't know why. Not like deathly, but just a little Two consenting adults that really, I think a lot of women do. And the conservatives read this out loud like, oh my God, 1 in 4 young adults is choked during sex. Like, what kind of society is this? I'm like, sounds a lot more fun than the one you want to say. Two consenting adults that really want to bang is fulfilling and enough. All these sex, kinks, toys, fetishes only become popular because the internet and porn were still in 1950s. No, my dear, in the 1960s, children were being abused at probably higher rates than now. I only like those who are happy with themselves instead of being into porn a lot. Thank you, Master Jedi Order. Partners that I've been with that enjoyed choking said it stemmed from feeling they were in complete control of their partner. We don't know. Even if we try to say where it stems from in ourselves, we like kind of are guessing. I blame it on how I was raised. Humiliating another man for the size of his junk was forbidden in my house. I don't care that I have a teeny when I was born with it. That was just a rule in your house. Like, household rules. Clean up after yourself. Do not humiliate another man for the size of his junk. Are you message me on OnlyFans, not the playlist. Jasmine, what role does this human and uncontrollable part of fetishes play in court as if an argument? No, because once you act on it, like, you're not in court because you have desire for children. You're in court because you violated a law that involves some type of behavior, even if it's as simple as owning the content. So it doesn't play a factor in court. I think what this is an overarching conversation about is, what is the purpose of prison? Is it retribution? Is it punishment? Is it blah, blah, blah? And then if it's punishment, it's different. Like, I know it's an unpopular opinion, but people look at Jeffrey Dahmer and they're like, he should be kept away from society. But how morally culpable, and I'm just using him as an example. I don't have an answer to this. I'm not like in the, I honestly don't even know that much about, I just little things, but I'm saying a situation like that. I don't know who is calling me from the 604 number. There was a study done that studied child abuse of stepchildren. Fathers were repelled by their bio kids' body odor. The study posits that is a protection against bioincest to deter developmental disability in the children that may. Yeah, that could be the case. That's what I was saying. I know that there are a lot of people that have these people who do have this fetish, that it doesn't apply to their own children. In the same way that you're not turned on by your own sister, most of us, even if you're turned on by women, I think that could be kind of the case for me, but opposite, I'm a naturally dominant person and being chosen to feel submissive. I've read that because I was like, what is up with Findom? Like, who is turned on by just someone taking their money? First, I love it. Like, please, I will quench your thirst for this fetish every time. Message me. But I'm like, where does this come from? And what I was reading is it does seem to be something that is typically a fetish belonging to people, men who are in positions of power in society, have a lot of control, and it's the idea of relinquishing that control in their finances and being entirely submissive that turns them on. Again, we don't know. This is all just us kind of guessing and using the experience of people who have the fetish and some theories. All right. Let's see what my moderator said. Light choking gives you a slight high due to oxygen deprivation. I think it is just for me, it is just a little bit of that. Like, I like to be like dumb. I'm not like a BDSM person, but I do like to be submissive. And I think it does exert the illusion that this person has like more control over you. But I don't like, if I'm actually like struggling to breathe, like, which has never happened. No, that's not it. I don't like pain. I think digital neurosis is more about wasting your time and potential than making you do things. Treacherously with the good quotes. Predators gravitate around the position of power over their favorite target. Yes. I don't think that's relevant to what we're saying, though. Something about being reminded you can die. But that's the thing. I don't like to feel like I can die. I just like to feel like I'm in a submissive state. I don't know. All right. Yeah, I feel like risky sex is good sex, adrenaline odds rather than awesome element. This is where exhibitionists, all that stuff come in. I will say since I started OnlyFans, like there are things that I never would have tried or thought I'd be into that I'm like at least a little bit into now. So interesting. As somebody who was a child in the Catholic schools in 1960, kids were abused daily, hit, pinched, emotional abuse. Yeah, way better now. Yeah. So this idea that porn started pedophilia or that porn started child abuse or that, you know, everyone was just hunky dory and we were all living these great vanilla lives and then porn came around and now we're all fucking sick freaks is not true by any measure. I've never had a partner that wasn't into being choked. I have one partner tell me not to help her when she was choking on bacon at one point for a while. Oh, needless to say, we never went to breakfast in public again. Oh, okay. Good for her. Live your life, girl. Digital business models are meant to sell and get you to click on things and waste time. I don't really buy into the conspiracy that private businesses are conspiracy to make people gay or kinky, for example. Yeah, that is just the evil agent, Illuminati conspiracy theory world where there is this group of powerful agents that are like behind the scenes, like that are like secretly. Now, if you want to believe in mass wealth inequality and that powerful people run the country and that corporate money and blah 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 affect our policies tremendously, that's different than believing that like evil people were sitting in a room and like Travis Scott like joined this and like that is, you know, and you see the devil and that's different. And I not again, the thing about conspiracy theories is once in a while they're true. And that's why as human beings, we are programmed to believe in them because it would have served us better in survival to be super superstitious and to believe everything was a threat and to believe everything was out to get us. And if you hear a tree branch, to assume it was a lion, even though you don't have, it's not even likely that it's a lion, but it was safer to assume it's a lion every time because one time could be a lion. And that's kind of from, if you guys remember my conspiracy theory episode, where a lot of us, we have an affliction towards conspiracy theories, which kind of, when I learned about all this and I spent more time on the internet, which kind of cut at my belief that the free marketplace of ideas would always end up in the best ideas winning. I don't think that's true anymore. I think it's the ideas that best appeal to our primitive brains, which aren't always logical. Okay, sorry. Not relevant. Yeah, it became a rule because my brother did the art of deep. Okay, I'm gonna skip him, but thank you for sharing. I think there's also people that don't know they have a fetish until they try something new related to sex. Yes, that's true. I wonder if all of us tried a bunch of different fetishes. Like, I'm sure all of us would have found something that we're like, it was kind of fun. Well, you have okay. I'm gonna try to get, because I only have 4 minutes. I'm gonna try to get to anything. I've seen enough horror movies to know never go into the woods and run always. Have you produced any porn yet? Yep. Check out my OF. All right. We are about 4 minutes away from the OnlyFans Live, where we can make some of my kinks, some of your kinks come into fruition, if you catch my drift. But super interesting topic to me, because when you find topics like this and you come up with a position and then you have to think, is this position coming out of logic? Is it coming out of emotion? How do I make this intellectually consistent? Where do we draw the line? The grays, like, this is stuff that I live for because I have no life and I like to ponder on questions that do not have answers and will never have answers and will just torment me. Yep, nice talk. We're all weird. Love yourself. Any last comments before I switch gears? Okay, well, y'all know the rules. Thank you. Have fun on the other stream. Thank you. Thank you. Drizzle dripping. I better see you. You know where. All right, guys. Thank you so much. If you guys have like additional comments, or you found a study or anything, or you have a topic that you want me to discuss later, find me on my socials, jasminejafar.me, anywhere, especially OF Snap. I will see it, and I would love it too. Instagram, anywhere. I also have an email, jasminejafar@gmail.com. Works, and we also have one for the podcast, which I'm gonna like revamp. When I revamp, we're gonna really come out with the podcast like name, like hardcore. Oh, Discord. Yes. Okay. There's also a Discord group that I don't know how to get into, but I know it's set up and I know some of you are in it. I'm gonna try to get in. The problem is I have a fake profile Discord, so that when people invite other people into leaked groups on Discord that sell content, that it's not like my name. So I might still have an alias, but you guys will know it's me when I get in there. I need a new Discord link. Okay. I don't know how the moderator can get us into that Discord. I know he said that some of you are in it. I'm not in it, but I want to get in it, and we need Angelica in it. The ladies are coming, boys. Okay, let's see what he said. All right. He's going to send me a new link. Can we post it in here? Just got it. Thanks. Okay. Yeah, and then I'll talk to my moderator on how I can get in. But I would love, and that's going to be just a place where we can, like, because these conversations always make me think of something like 3 days later, and I just want to put it in the chat. Me and Hazards didn't do this between ourselves all the time, but if maybe there are topics that are more pertinent to like all of us, then I would love to do that. We could be like a little intellectual study group, studying life. All right, Persian Princess, can you show your body before you go? Nope, I'm going to show it in 1 minute at the appropriate location. So you can join, jasminejafar.me. Check me out over there. Everybody else, have a good night. Bye.